Avatar: The Last Airbender is a series filled with great storytelling, amazing world building, and well-written characters, and throughout the show all of that is shown and even more, but there are some moments that are really dark and sad. And it illustrates the fact that it's not really just a kid's show. So what are some of the saddest moments in Avatar? First off is episode 3 of book 1, The Southern Air Temple. At this point, even though Katara and Sokka tell Aang that no one has seen an airbender in 100 years, he still thinks they're around, but once they get there and they find no one, and Katara finds the remnants of the Fire Nation, but it's once Aang finds Monk Gyatso's corpse that changes everything. Gyatso was his teacher and pretty much a father to Aang, and he finds his bones surrounded by Fire Nation skeletons also. He goes into the Avatar state, but Katara calms him down. This makes Aang realize the fact that he truly is the last airbender. Even though he told Appa and Momo they were the last of the Southern Air Temple and he looked optimistic for the future, it would still be a thing that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He saw it as his greatest failure, and now he had the mission of bringing an entire culture and nation back from extinction all by himself, and all of this when bro was still 12. My guy was middle schooler age. After this has to be Zuko's backstory. That is just tragic. In episode 12, The Storm, which is easily one of the best Avatar episodes, it shows Aang and Zuko's backstory. Aang's backstory ties in with the loss of Gyatso and the Air Nomads, but you finally see why Zuko is the way he is. Bro just wants to be a good son, but when your dad is Ozai, that ain't it. But the one major thing that's always stuck with him is that Azula was born lucky, but he was lucky to be born. This fueled his drive to prove himself, and his mom disappearing didn't really help that at all. And in the war room, when he spoke out against the Fire Nation general, Ozai took that as an insult, and then Zuko had to face his father in an Agni Kai. But he didn't want to, and as a result, Ozai burned his son and Zuko got a scar. But after this has to be Iroh with the whole Leaves from the Vine song and Tales of Ba Sing Se episode. He was the firstborn son of Fire Lord Azulon and was the first in line for the throne. Iroh had a son named Lu Ten, and during his 600-day siege of Ba Sing Se, Lu Ten died, and this changed Iroh forever. He gave up the siege and eventually his line for the throne when Ozai became Fire Lord, and every year on the day of his son's death, he pays respects to Lu Ten. Iroh changes his perspective on life, and after losing Lu Ten, he sees Zuko as his son. Katara and Sokka losing their mother obviously affected them, but I would say it's more Katara's backstory as she feels the loss of her mom more, and I mean she literally said that to Sokka. And when the Fire Nation raided the Southern Water Tribe looking for the last waterbender, Katara's mom Kaya wanted to protect her. Yan Ra, the Fire Nation commanding officer who was inside their tent, questioned Kaya, and in order to protect Katara, Kaya said she was the waterbender, and Yan Ra killed her for it. And Katara would go on to find her mom's body. This would haunt her until the day she confronted Yan Ra with Zuko, seeing how pathetic he actually was and decides to spare him. And then we can't forget everything that happened to Appa after he was taken by the Sandbenders. Toph could only watch, well, I mean, listen, I guess, as Appa was taken and sold. After being sold, Appa was put in a circus where he was abused by the animal wrangler. He tried to get food and was punished and humiliated for it, but he eventually escaped and wandered throughout the Earth Kingdom struggling to survive. He grew more and more injured while getting more tired and hungry, all the while he was looking for Aang. Appa's only relief was when he was asleep and dreamed of the first time he met Aang. He eventually came across the Kyoshi warriors, but after they were defeated by Azula, Mai, and Ty Lee, Appa went to Ba Sing Se and was captured by the Dai Li. He was underground until Zuko came across and freed him, and he was finally reunited with Aang. Now, I also gotta talk about Azula's fall into insanity. She starts off as a villain hunting down her brother and uncle in the Avatar. She manages to take over Ba Sing Se and get Zuko to betray Iroh, all under the guise that Aang was killed. First is how her mother Ursa treated her, which affected her majorly. She always favored Zuko, and on the surface, Azula acted like she didn't care, but deep down, she wanted her mother to love her like Zuko. But in book 3 is when her downfall happens. Ty Lee and Mai betray her, and they were pretty much the last ones on her side, and after she became Fire Lord for like a day, her sanity cracked. She saw hallucinations of her mother, and that hallucination was the only time she ever heard her mother say that she loved her. But after Zuko and Katara beat Azula in the final Agni Kai, she breaks down, and in the comics is even put into a mental asylum. Now, those are just a few sad aspects of Avatar, but there are many more, like Jet's death and again Zuko's relationship with his mom and her disappearing. But it was still interesting to think about and how all of this stems from a kid's show. But what do you think is the saddest moment in Avatar? But if you enjoyed the video, then be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Go check out my other channels and go follow me on TikTok, which will all be linked down below. Also, I got a new mic and I'm working out the kinks and effects with the audio, so if it sounds kind of weird, that's why. It'll probably be like that for the next few videos until I find out like how I actually want the audio to sound and how good I actually want it to be. But with all that out of the way, I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.